Hi guys, welcome. We're going to go ahead and give it a couple minutes for everybody to jump on before we get started. All right. It is 2:01, so we will go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for joining us today for this month's installation of What's Up in the Watershed webinar. My name is Jessie Wales with the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, and today we will be hearing from my good friend Josh Mills. Before we get started, just a reminder that the chat feature has been turned off. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A. They will be answered live at the end of the presentation as much time as will allow. Also, additionally, this webinar is going to be recorded and will go up onto our YouTube channel later this afternoon. So if you have any friends or colleagues who are unable to attend today, it will be recorded and able to be watched at a different time. Additionally, in addition to that, our next webinar is going to be on June 17th at 2 p.m. and we will be hearing from Sea and Shoreline. So as I mentioned, we will be hearing from Josh Mills today, who is a Senior Environmental Associate for Native Shorelines, a Davey Resource Group. Josh is originally from Michigan, but has spent many summers down here in Florida. Visiting family. After taking the GI Bill path out of high school with the Marines, hoorah, Josh attended Florida Atlantic University and received a Bachelor of Science in Biogeography. From there, he attended Virginia Tech and earned his master's in natural resources. And now he is currently living and thriving in Martin County and works to restore Florida's ecosystems with Davey Resource Group. So without further ado, Josh, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. I like that I am thriving. Everyone should thrive.
I feel like you're
Um,
thriving. I may have made that up, but I'm pretty sure you're thriving.
I am.
Okay.
I'm happy and well, so I wish that for everyone. But yeah, thank you, Jesse, KJ, the whole IRL and EP team, and all of you attending the webinar. I am Josh Mills, a Senior Environmental Associate for Davey Resource Group. You may maybe say DRG for brevity or Davey during the presentation, and our Living Shoreline Division, Native Shorelines. I have been fortunate enough to work within the Indian River Lagoon for close to 16 years, starting out as a volunteer with an IRL nonprofit, eventually hired by that nonprofit, and have been an oyster and living shoreline groupie ever since. But currently, I'm able to do this passion with an amazing company that is Davey. And to get to where we are within the Indian River Lagoon, I'm going to go back to where we started, where Davey started, which was founded in 1880 as a tree company, currently number two largest tree care company in America with some work in Florida, quite a bit. Big ones are we are completing the City of Jacksonville urban forestry master plan, Legoland tree inventory, and some other municipal projects. And in the 90s, one of the best decades ever, the Davey Resource Group was created for our increased environmental growth beyond trees. That's focusing on wetlands, rivers, shorelines, resiliency, and other environmental specialties. And so within that Davey umbrella, the Davey parent company, there are multiple divisions. These are only a few that my pursuits overlap with. We have additional like Davey Golf, Davey Tree, and some more, but I represent the Davey Resource Group and our Living Shoreline Division, Native Shorelines, along with research support from our Davey Institute and fieldwork from our wetland studies and solution folks. QuickReef, our proprietary breakwater module was created by Native Shorelines, and I'll talk more on that in a moment. That's a big focus for Florida and the Indian River Lagoon. And these divisions, full of subject matter experts and longevity of 146 plus years, consistently keeps Davey ranked within the top 10 employee-owned companies in the United States. And as I said, some of our environmental services, these are ones that specifically you can find in Florida. The two that you will hear from me whether it's on the streets or this presentation is living shorelines and ecosystem restoration, but all these other services such as urban forestry, invasive species, et cetera, are expertise here in the Great Sunshine State. And then one last highlight before moving on to QuickReef and eventually Indian River Lagoon is our Davey Institute Seed Campus. This is our 200-acre research and education facility where the R&D magic happens. Also, it was recently the host for the ISA tree climbing competition. I think on LinkedIn and the various social media platforms, you can see the pictures and the fun time that was had there. And while I would love to go into detail on the seed campus, our invasive work with USDA, the state-of-the-art tree keeper software, or biochar, we have a biochar facility with our own kilns. That is to help with our zero waste goal. By 2030, we use wood waste from all of our tree products and currently use the biochar for soil amendments and water quality. But I'll touch on a new application towards the end that is directly applicable to the Indian River Lagoon. And in today's focus, QuickReef. So QuickReef was initially developed to respond to dwindling oyster shell supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic with simple goals of recruiting oysters as well or better than shell, be as natural as possible, resemble an oyster shell bag, an oyster bag sill. For those of you who have done oyster bag placement, you can picture that as close as possible, attenuate wave energy, work in coastal waters, and enhance habitat. QuickReef is made of marl, which is an earthy marine or freshwater sediment composed primarily of clay and calcium carbonate with coastal limestone and recycled oyster shells that we collect. We have our own shell recycling, and the three main venues we receive that from are restaurants, festivals, and markets. And the QuickReef is a patented arrangement with the proprietary mixture, and the patents are as follows. I will not read each one, but as always, my information will be at the end of this presentation. Happy to share anything and everything as within reason. But yeah, and so the patented arrangement and recruitment, we have great success with recruitment on the exterior, as you can see in the upper right and bottom left, but also within the structures. And that's the interstitial spacing, those extra gaps, creating more surface area. But the mussels in the top left image, I think, are amazing representation beyond oyster shell. And that's at a project in North Carolina, but it's highlighting the great success among the multiple sessile species that mixture recruits. And here's another image. Again, Harker's Island, North Carolina. That's within 6 months, and you can see amazing development from the oysters, highlighting how well the mixture recruits. And then on our website, nativeshorelines.com, we have an extensive library of images with the timeline that shows successful oyster growth, but that's also backed up by a study completed by East Carolina University. A recent peer-reviewed study, again out of ECU, showing the benefits of oysters and coastal resiliency. The project was to show the absolute amazing role oysters play in wave attenuation and breakwaters and stabilizing shorelines, that resiliency. And part of the study was an existing QuickReef project, which used to highlight that living reef performance boost. So the report is a powerful demonstration of the need for oysters, and QuickReef success and oyster recruitment directly translates into that superior coastal protection over time as biological engineering took over and the wave attenuation performance upgraded dramatically across all tidal zones. I want to give a shout out to Georgette with ECU. You can see the link at the bottom, but again, if you need to find, please reach out. Or if you join the WEMP group, they recently had the paper in their newsletter that just went out. And another study, again, going for QuickReef and the benefit is with University of South Alabama. Over 300 wave cases were tested, and their flume tested, basic crest, wave attenuation, some other factors. And the engineering report provides quantitative verification that QuickReef is highly effective at attenuating wave energy across three different testings of the physical laboratory testing, numerical simulations, and a real-world field monitoring. The report and a summary of findings are both located on our website. As you can see there, you go nativeshorelines.com and you will see a button for engineering or consultant, and everything is right there. But I will repeat again, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to talk further or share accordingly. And so QuickReef itself, the modules, all modules are fully customizable. We've even created several innovative designs based on the environment and the client need. It's essentially the Florida-friendly landscaping mantra, right plan for the right place. Excuse me, right module for the right place. And the reason we can do that is QuickReef are created by forms, which allows for the customization that's not afforded via stamping or pre-described molds. And each one of these, we have many in the library, if you will, but these are the main four. Our semi-sill, where you see the dirt coming up to the back, that's actually a flat back and it acts as an independent seawall. And then you come through with shoreline plantings, whether it's Juncus or Spartina over the top. The Defender is for your high fetch, strong, high energy areas. Can get up to 7 feet in height, very sturdy, high integrity structure. The habitat reefs, also referred to as hives, are your subtitle as it states habitat, whether that is for your your oysters, your bivalves, or juvenile fish to hide out, maybe a great place for lobstering, and the shoreline habitat units. And these were created for the citizen scientists. The shoe picture here for the shoreline habitat units is from a project in Fort Pierce. You can see the sediment accretion over the base. This was less than a month after deployment, and the homeowner is so pleased with the results that we do have an additional 20 feet being installed next month. And I'll talk about each of these in some detail. Pardon me again. So as I said, the sills, you can see how the bases are placed. There's a 1 to 1.5 inch ratio. And then you can see the dirt towards the end there, and that gets filled in on the back side. Then the panel's placed on the front. And then as you look at the images going to the right, you can see what that looks like. And I, oh, pardon me, purposely left images blank without the shoreline plantings just to show what that looks like once the fill is packed in and has been placed. This is a great example of a custom solution that is now a regular staple in our catalog, that originated with the homeowner in Virginia. The QuickReef Defender is best utilized and almost solely as a sill. So unlike your plopper or individual structures that consist of lines of single disconnected units, the overlapping nature of our QuickReef, where you have the base and then the panel lays down over a base and the half of the other, uh, creating and acting as a single sill, dispersing that wave energy and providing that connected interstitial space that's needed. And then obviously as the oysters start to precipitate the calcium carbonate, it's going to solidify and unify that structure as one. And then the shoreline habitat units, they weigh in about 37 pounds each, 35 to 40 pounds. Shoes are a modular, do-it-yourself, friendly living shoreline material that reduces wave energy while also providing that habitat for fish and oysters. They are an upgrade to plastic bags, and as you can see in the picture, they still utilize the bucket brigade approach to deployment like bags did, still keeping our citizen scientists engaged that our nonprofits depend on and the community loves to be a part of. The picture in the upper left here with the folks in the Bucket Brigade, that is from our project on the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in Parris Island. So I love it for many reasons. And to learn more, there's our full QuickReef product catalog is available online, and you can access on our website or through the QR code right here. We've recently completed an in-depth consolidation of QuickReef metrics, essentially the previous slides with greater detail and references. So please reach out and I'm happy to share, or I'll see about having it included in the post presentation when the links go out. And so some project highlights from over the 200 living shoreline projects with 53 different municipalities and active across 7 states, over 29,000, just under 30,000 linear feet of QuickReef shorelines installed, just over 8,000 on the way. Some project examples, again, out of 200, these are ones that I'm more a fan of. I think they're pretty cool to highlight. Billion Oyster Project in New York Harbor. This was a response to an invitation to bid for specific criteria requiring as much interstitial spacing as possible, recruiting metrics. And this actually contributed to the design of our QuickReef Hive modules. Our Hive modules, too, if I didn't mention, they also, you can configure them in 100 different a fashion, like different ways, that is going to be the best for what you need. The North Carolina project, Pine Knoll Shores, is was roughly just under 5 miles of coastline on the sound side, but a lot of the taxes and funding went to beach erosion. So partnerships with other agencies, the town, state, elected officials, and more led to protection of that sound side, protection of some cultural resources such as Native American shell middens, and some glass beads, even an aquarium along there. But the really cool part was this was a $1.8 million project that only cost the town and landowners just over 30,000 through grants and the North Carolina Living Shoreline Cost Share Program. And then Parris Island, South Carolina, in the previous image with the shoreline habitat units, that's 935 linear feet of QuickReef shoreline habitat units that were installed. We also have 500 feet of the 4 foot high QuickReef defenders. Those were your hardy kind of high energy units, and that's done with the South Carolina DNR. The living shoreline is to protect critical military infrastructure at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island. And this has been an awesome project and a long history of federal and military based projects with the Davey family. And the final innovative technologies with FDP, as you see, is in Florida. This will be one of 3 projects to highlight within the Indian River Lagoon, the purpose that we're all here. So based on published studies proving marl's natural ability to absorb nutrients, QuickReef, with its 95% marl mixture, has been awarded just under $1 million as part of the FDP Innovative Technologies Grant. This is done in partnership with the Florida Institute of Technology, Dr. Tafik Riza, and with Florida Sea Grant agent, Dr. Vincent Encomio, and in Native Shorelines. And we're studying nutrient reduction capabilities of QuickReef Carbon Plus. That's the biochar additional use I said I would mention later that's going to benefit the IRL. We've incorporated our biochar within the QuickReef, and that was done with our biochar research team out of the Davey Institute and with our Native Shorelines operations team. So we'll be able to, quantify nutrient reduction, what biochar's role plays in it in conjunction with QuickReef as that shoreline stabilization and oyster recruitment, and the application of innovative approaches such as heat-treated oyster shells, which the kiln that we use to create biochar will also be the same kiln for heat treating the oyster shells. And again, the research is out there that shows heat-treated oyster shells can remove phosphates with up to 98% effectiveness, and that's part of the research. The project will be in Jensen Beach and commence once the grant service agreement is finalized with the state, which we're, crossing the I's and dotting the T's right now. So it'll be any time, but it's an exciting opportunity that that was well received by the review committee at the state. Number two within the Indian River Lagoon is the Beachwoods Property Owners Association. So this was for a site assessment and then a phase two site assessment with full permitting, and then a phase two of cost analysis and then construction. The Beachwoods Property Owners Association has successfully received all required permits and blessings, if you will, and it's just an absolute ideal site for a living shoreline. We first started with Florida Department of Environmental Protection, received their, again, I keep saying their blessing, but then it was transferred to St. Johns River Water Management District, who was the lead permitting agency. And then from there, we submitted all the habitat surveys that we did, our designs, the DP Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Reserves, qualified for an exemption through them, and then Army Corps of Engineers. We received Nationwide Permit 54, Living Shorelines, and all agencies. There was not a single RAI. Everything was just done to the T. So that was awesome, and it was just record permitting time. Like I said, the project is ready for construction. We'll finalize details with the community this week or next. And it's also great that we're able to include a well-informed citizen science club made up of residents and Beachwoods. They have their own environmental club that's full of master gardeners and some Florida Master Naturalist Program graduates. And so they are going to handle the 1,700 square feet of shoreline plantings. There was a final report submitted to the community, and within it lists different FDAX nurseries that are approved. So the club will coordinate with them on a planting matrix with species, but it's a total of 425 linear feet. 365 of that will be QuickReef Defender modules. And then again, with the plantings done with the community's environmental club. And next project is in Fort Pierce against Indian River Lagoon. This was a homeowner, and this one was awesome because the guy's energy level was just through the roof of excitement to go with the nature-based approach, to go with the living shoreline on his property. It was 45 linear feet of QuickReef shoreline habitat units. Again, that's the citizen science approach, the ones deployed manually. That was a total of 294 modules, very heavy at 11,000 pounds of reef total. And then plantings of 8 mangroves, 30 Spartina, with more to come. And the other cool part was this was done with the St. Lucie County 4-H kids. The link that, or the QR code that you see right there, on the day we were doing the plantings, CBS 12 came out and filmed the kids plantings, got to interview a few of them. Myself and Dr. Vincent Encomio, who was representing St. Lucie County 4-H that day, we were able to, chime in on the benefit of living shorelines and what we were doing out there. But it's a really cool news story. I won't play it here. It's a few minutes, but it's worth the watch. And so this is the one as well where the homeowner is requesting an additional 20 linear feet, and will also install some more mangroves and Spartina, permitting people. So we're taken care of. And anyhow, this is the type of homeowner we need for the lagoon. Take 1,000 of these homes, just creating one solid linear living shoreline project. And then these are some pictures. The upper left picture was taken right after the reef was completed, and the other two images show the scale of accretion over time. And I'm 100% confident when we go out there next month to do the additional 20 feet and plantings that we will definitely find oyster spat on, like, already recruiting on what's there with the 45 feet. So think I did good on time, and that is it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh. That was super informative for all of the work that you guys are doing. I like that you're still trying to use oyster shells in your native shorelines that you guys are working on, especially the fact that they're recycled, which has a special place in my heart.
Oh yeah.
So we did have a couple of questions come in through our Q&A and also through the chat during your presentation. So the first one I'm going to ask is, can you explain a little bit more about the heat treatment process of oyster shells?
Yes. So this is where Dr. Tafik Riza is going to be the expert on this and the PI. But it does create a chemical reaction with the heat treatment of the oyster shell and even with marl as well, to where it intensifies their ability to be a sink for phosphates and nitrates.
Mm.
And that's kind of what we're studying is to take it to the next level, but that's based on some research and some work Dr. Riza has done in the past. So I won't embarrass myself and speak too much further on it, but that's the gist of it.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you. What are the biggest mistakes property owners or practitioners make when selecting a living shoreline design? In your opinion, I think is what the question was asking.
Repeat that, please. Sorry.
Yeah, so what do you feel is the biggest mistake that property owners or practitioners make when selecting a living shoreline design? Because there's so many options out there right now. A lot of from green all the way up to gray. So
Yeah.
what do you feel?
I mean, sometimes you have to take what you want to do out of the picture and do what's best. I'll give an example. This is in Pensacola, Perdido Bay. The canal was very narrow, and the homeowner really wanted a living shoreline, but because of his bluff, you can only go out 25% of a canal, a water body. It was just impossible. And so a seawall was the only solution. Um, as someone whose career and focus is nature-based solution, you have to admit when gray is the only alternative. And so just doing what's best for the homeowner. And no matter what the size is, if it's an HOA, a community, or an individual.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think sometimes we kind of people get boxed into what their neighbors are doing, and they want to do the same thing, even if it may not be right for their property.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about the process of how you pre-assess these future living shorelines and how you determine what module type is appropriate for those?
Yeah. Basic things like number one is really the wave, the energy of the environment. The last thing we want to do, especially as we're trying to promote nature-based solutions, and I mean we, all of us who's probably on this call,
Hmm.
is to have a project that fails. Naysayers love to point to that. So you want to look at what's going to be best as far as the breakwater choice, what plantings. Maybe there's an additional step of some grading of the actual shoreline itself, like going up with some more terrestrial plantings. But yeah, again, it sounds like I keep going back to the same answer, but it's
Oh,
it's
that's okay.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just taking in the geomorphology and taking in what the environment is giving you and what created that shoreline in the first place or what is deteriorating it, and then kind of working backwards from there.
Okay, perfect. And then a follow-up to that question from the same participant is, do you guys do any monitoring at these sites after the fact?
We do, and it's kind of been it's not been written in. It's more curiosity, if you will, and also so that and the partnership being with University of Florida Sea Grant on one of them also helps. We all know Dr. Encomio, and so
Yep.
he's constantly going to want to look at oyster recruitment and how the living shoreline's doing well. But our company itself, our director, Mary Margaret McKinney out of North Carolina, she's working on her PhD and is very much all about research and having the backing of the scientific community. And so that does involve a lot of post monitoring, going out there and you can't speak to the success of what you're doing if you're not out there tracking the post process.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. So you did mention that your shell comes from recycled areas, but where do you source your oyster shell material? Is it restaurants? Is it, I don't know, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, no,
Happy
all of our
houses.
shell. So Worth Creech, our operations director, he's the one that runs our collection, and so he sets up. He has a few restaurants that he works with.
Hmm.
He'll set up at festivals or markets that sell oyster shells. Some areas, it's really cool. There's certain areas, from Florida all the way up to Prince Edward Island, really. Oysters are kind of like an identity of the community. So when people go to a market, actually, Nicolette here up in Sebastian, people will bring their old shells. as they come to buy oyster shells. So that's another source as well. So teaming with markets and partners in that regard. So we collect the shells and then they go through their curing period, like we all know that they're supposed to let nature do its cleaning. But yeah, restaurants, markets, and festivals.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Um, at sites in the Indian River Lagoon, is oyster settlement predominantly subtidal or intertidal? I feel like that's a loaded question. And a follow-up to that is, have you noticed differences in recruitment at Florida sites versus Carolina sites? So subtidal, intertidal, any
Yeah,
difference in recruitment?
I'll start backwards. To be determined on oyster recruitment. Our North Carolina sites have quite a leg up on us. And many years since we've started operating in Florida. Um, I apologize. I probably should have thrown this in the presentation. I've been in Florida for 16 years, but our focus for the Native Shorelines Davey Resource Group, this part has only been in Florida for a year and a half.
Hmm.
So to be determined on that. I'm going to say Florida's better, but I'm biased.
I hope
Subtitle
your
versus
Carolina colleagues aren't on the call.
yeah. Um, The subtitle versus intertitle, again, it depends where you are. An oyster prefers a subtitle or an intertitle environment. That's where they're going to be stronger. When we install an oyster reef for breakwater, we prefer the intertidal zone. That's the best way oysters are going to kind of keep up with sea level rise, putting that living in the living shoreline. So it depends what you're looking for. Again, if it's for consumptive use, you see our aquaculture farms with floating mats, that's
Yeah,
subtitle 100%. So it really depends if it's ecological or consumptive, and what geography of Florida you're in, what region. So it depends where you are answer and what your
absolutely.
goals are.
Absolutely. Have you experimented with planting mangroves in the units or perhaps designing
Ooh.
a unit that would facilitate mangroves?
Great question. That's another, I don't want to speak on it yet, but it's very close, but that's something else that will be happening in the Indian River Lagoon. We're working with a company and the homeowner, for some pretty far offshore. And that's where we're thinking of different ways to add additional habitat, and mangroves is part of that discussion. Um, so if you have me back in like a year, then I'll be able to talk about that. But we are our habitat. It's actually our hive habitat reef, and we're looking at a configuration onto where the top can be. If you can picture like the reef volcanoes that we do with the propagule inside, but having like a place on the top, and then where the mangrove could kind of grow out over, the walking can happen from the top of the hive reef.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. So mark your calendars, everyone. We will have Josh back next year. Question and a comment. Comment is great presentation. Question is
Oh.
realizing that some of these solutions are customized. Could you speak generally about the cost range for your four types of reef structures?
Yes. Again, like I'll give you a range. So starting with the shoreline habitat units, our shoes. Um, I mean, you can. Oof, I should know this off the top of my head, but basically, you're looking at about. It's hard to say because if you use a base, if you go all shoes, and then going all the way up to like a 7 foot defender. So I mean, it can be anywhere from $100 a linear foot to $850 a linear foot. Again, don't quote me on all that. And we do have a cost sheet that can help with all that. So please reach out. I'm happy to share it, and that allows you to do your own kind of analysis based on what you're doing, and you can get a better idea of what you can expect to spend that way.
Perfect.
But that
Yeah.
would be what, yes.
If that participant is okay with it, I'm happy to share your information with Josh as well. Just let me know in the question and answer session section. Um, Next question. Do you see the potential for connected native shorelines on private waterfront properties in Florida to function similarly to Douglas Talamay's concept of homegrown national park with his focus on native plants?
I don't know that park, so I don't know.
That's
I'm
okay. I don't know
ass-
either too much. Hopefully the commenter will go ahead and expand on that and we can
I'm
understand it a little
assuming
better.
a connectivity of just a continuous,
Hmm.
which I don't see why not. You would just have to make sure to accommodate for several things, any infrastructure like stormwater outfalls or anything like that, boat ramps, recreational use, and then that 75 feet where you need the 5 foot break as you move, per permitting requirements. So I don't see why not if I'm picturing the question correctly.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's no different than if we were to seawall a whole lagoon. So why not put breakwaters, the whole lagoon with proper plantings?
very nice. Thank you. What other species besides oysters commonly utilize these habitats?
Yeah, mussels. We're seeing a great attraction of mussels. So that's also opening up the discussion with other parts of the US that are strictly freshwater, riverine.
Hmm.
And they obviously have erosion. Where I'm from, Michigan, we have a very strong Davey presence up there. And so we're having discussions on living shorelines for freshwater environments. Tennessee and then has a ton of rivers. We've had some discussions there. So now that you see the mussel recruitment, but you're also going to get your shoreline stabilization, and in some of these areas that are endangered species of mussels that need to be protected. So if you're also reaching into the realm of species protection, habitat protection, then that's a huge bonus as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what do you feel are the biggest permitting hurdles for living shoreline projects right now?
Um, Man, I feel very spoiled because all the pre-apps have been extremely just straightforward. The permitting process has been very straightforward. Um, I just feel if you know what they want to see, go ahead and do it ahead of time. We did our habitat assessment, basically check for seagrass, any invasive species that would need to be removed, meaning vegetation. And just if we think it qualifies for an exemption, and don't do an exemption just to do an exemption. If
Yeah,
it fits and it's a perfect choice for it, then make sure you're within the requirements, that 10 feet from mean high, under 500 feet. You're including the shoreline vegetation. But yeah, I was just talking with a friend of mine over at Pond up in Northeast Florida, an engineering firm, but uh, it just, I don't know, you do what they ask and it's pretty easy.
it is. Yeah, I
So
agree. Yeah, permitting is a tricky one because a lot of people feel it's currently easier to permit seawalls than it is living shorelines. But I have a feeling that as we continue this work, that's going to change.
sure.
A little
Well,
easier.
especially with that SB 302 that came out, we're seeing a lot of the counties are being a little more open and lenient. Again, the Beechwoods HOA in Brevard County was ecstatic to support a living shoreline coming for a large HOA.
Yeah.
Yet they laid out what they'd have to do if they wanted to do a seawall. And it was like basically one line of it's in the water, we support it, and that's it, versus 20 bullet points of where you have to go through growth management and planning and design and get a building. Like there's just all sorts of extra obstacles with the seawall. And so, yeah, we are seeing a transition in a positive way towards that nature-based solution.
Excellent. Last question of the chat today. Actually, hold on. We just had one more pop in. Um, can you talk a little bit about the water quality prerequisites needed before installing any of these?
I don't like, you mean like if, yeah, I don't think there really is any one. I guess it would, if the water quality is poor, then it would even justify it more,
Hmm.
to where you're trying to put root structures in for filtration. You're trying to get bivalves to grow for filtration. Um, but as far as water quality, that's what I'm looking at it in that sense, if that's how the question means. Um, if it's great water quality, that's even better. But if it's poor, your goal is to eliminate that, and to raise, you know, to better.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, you always take water quality, look at your DO and dissolve the or salinity and pH and all that stuff. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's
Mhm.
more just something you should do with your
Yeah.
project, even if you're doing a seawall. Look at your water quality.
Excellent. So last question of the session today is what surprised you most after the first few QuickReef installations that you've done?
Yeah, that's a great one. For up north, because again, Florida, we're still waiting for the oyster recruitment to come. It's the oyster recruitment. I was able before I even started with Native Shorelines to tour some sites up in North Carolina and Beaufort, and it's just amazing. We would look at a reef, and I thought it was 8, 9 years that it's been there, and less than a year, and there's already these like fully developed oysters. When they say adult oyster can filter 50 gallons of water a minute, or a day, whatever, like these oysters look like what they're describing, like the poster child of it, because they're just so well developed and large and thriving. So that was my biggest was the having that non-concrete based mixture using actual natural materials really does play a solid role in that.
Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time. This was super informative. We really enjoyed having you. And
Awesome.
if anyone has any follow-up questions that they think about after the fact and would like to get answered, please feel free to send an email to Josh, or shoot him a text message, or give him a call. And if you're interested, just remember that if you signed up for today's webinar, you are now signed up for all of our future webinars, which are up on the screen here. So, like I mentioned earlier, in June, we will have Sea and Shoreline out. July, we will have the Waterway Warriors all the way up to December. So please feel free to join us for those future webinars. Once again, my name is Jessie Wales, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will see you next month. All right, thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.